Good morning. This is White Raptor News Ministries. All praise and glory to the Supreme Spirit of Truth, the Living One. We're going to be going over Judges 4 this morning. But again, before I do these lessons, because if you want to do the lesson, then you can fast forward to the lesson later on. But we're going to go over a few parables first, and I want to show you. So we're going to start off this morning with Matthew 10:34. Okay, and this is Jesus, the sword of the gospel. And if you take the S off of sword and put it on the end, the words of the gospel. And let's not forget what I've taught you, that gospel is a ghost spell. Okay, Jesus is the ghost. And that's what I've showed you many times. And Jesus says, but whoever denies me before men, and I deny Jesus before men, I will also deny him before my Father in heaven. Well, I don't sweat this, because you got to understand that we're underneath of a firmament, and the heaven beneath the firmament is a heaven as well. And the Father that Jesus talks about is the vicar to the throne, who sits himself at God's throne through Jesus. This is how Jesus sits at the Creator's throne, is through Christians that place Jesus. They go through the Pope, who's a man, and the man puts an invisible, Jesus is the invisible God before a throne. The Pope, Pope Francis, is the physical. So that's how Christians place Jesus at the throne, and this is how Satan exalts himself, because you have not learned that Satan and Jesus are one and the same. And Christmas is a perfect example, because you got Santa Claus who comes down a chimney, and Santa's anagram is Satan. So you have Satan who's coming down the chimney through the fire. That attaches you to Jesus's birthday, or on the 25th. I don't believe that Jesus' birthday is on the 25th at all. More likely, Jesus' birthday is probably Halloween. So it says, but whoever denies me before men, I will also deny him before my Father in heaven. Do not assume that I have come to bring peace to the earth. What? Do not assume that I have come to bring peace. I have not come to bring peace, Jesus says, but the sword. Well, that makes no sense at all. So what I'm trying to show and share with people to help you understand what's going on in this Bible is that there are two Jesus Christ, okay? Well, let me retract that statement. There's one Jesus Christ that was a facade, a fantasy story that was grafted into the Bible later by the Gentiles. And then there's another Jesus that was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. This Jesus here is known as either Joseph, Josephet, is known as Joshua, is known as Yehoshua, is known as Yeshua. These are all the different names that were given to, what you would translate into today's English of Jesus. Jesus is not the proper name of the man who was sent. So this is a split parable, and it proves to you that there is two different Jesuses. For unto us a child is born, Yehoshua, Yeshua. That's who this one is. This is Josephet, or Joseph, or Joshua. Notice everything I say is facts, folks, and I prove it all with scriptures. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Why do they have this parable split like this? Because this is the Yehoshua that was born in a manger. This one is a man that was approved by God. Hear, O children of Israel. That's Acts 2:22. So when I bring you to these parables and stuff, okay, and it says that men of Israel, listen to this message. Jesus of Nazareth was a man. Okay? Yehoshua, Yeshua, was a man. I don't even know that Yeshua was a Nazarene. He was an Israelite. He was a Hebrew. Jesus was a Hebrew man who was certified by God. This God here is Theos, 23:16. Theos, a deity, especially the supreme divinity, a divinity of the supreme creator. This is the opposite side. Remember that the supreme creator has ordained power to something that he created. And it was this God here. Well, you got to understand that the Old Testament God is Elohim and the New Testament God are magistrates. But Elohim, what have I told you, are many. They're plural. So anything that is a plural of the supreme creator is not supreme. It's something that was used of the supreme creator. And this is why this one is the supreme divinity of this plane of existence. You see, there is a veil that is set between us and the spiritual world. It's that sky that you look at. Everything that exists to us exists in the mind. This plane of existence is the lowest point of our lives. This is the lowest you. This is the carnal flesh you that lives in your desires. It's the lowest form of you. You are not in the base reality. Your soul, your spirit is outside of this plane of existence, but the material world has you trapped inside of a flesh suit, making you think that this is all there is. That is not the truth. There is much more. So, Yeshua was a man. I don't even need to say Nazarene. It's not necessary. If you're going to say it, it was an Israelite. Jesus of the Israelites was a man. Jesus was a man certified by God to you by miracles, wonders, and signs which God did. God did the miracles through him. Jesus, Yeshua, never performed miracles. God performed miracles through him. Well, how did God perform miracles through him? Let's take a look here. A mage, which is a conjurer. A mage is a sorcerer, a sorceress, a warlock. And this is why the word mage is in the word image. Because this God here on the sixth day, Elohim, which is plural of Eloah, God's in the ordinary sense, but this God is used. Okay, I'm going to roll with what I'm showing you. Okay? This God here is not the supreme creator. It's a God that is being used of a supreme creator. Why is it being used? Because the supreme creator is spirit, and it's never been flesh. Okay? The flesh is the seed of Satan. The seed is the semen. And what men worship on this plane of existence is their phallus. They love their dick. You heard me say it. They can't keep it out of their hands. This is an evil God that created a man in his own image. This God created a man in his own image. Who's the image? Jesus. He created him, one man, self, a male and female. This God here created on the sixth day of creation is a transgender. This is why people live in this plane of existence and they think to themselves that being gay is okay because you are the seed of Satan. That's why you march through the streets with your gay pride flag and just yahoo all day long. You're proud of your sexuality. You are men marching through the streets proud that you are placing your semen in the backside of another man's feces. And you're proud about that stuff. That is disgusting. That is not the natural order of both man and woman. This is Genesis Parthenos. This is a hermaphrodite, a God that created himself in an image. And the word image has the word mage in it. And this is why you have the illusion, because this God is a magi. Magi comes from Latin, which is magis, and the synonyms For a magi is a magician, okay? Is a sage, a seer, and a wizard. And this is why the word magi is in imagine, okay? I'm a jinn. This God that created itself on the sixth day of creation is a jinn, and a jinn is a genie. As in a genie out of the bottles. That's what we are. Jinn are our spirits. A spirit. A jinn is a spirit. Okay? They're warlocks. They're wizards. And they pulled a wool over your eyes, which is the veil. The veil that we look at is a disguise. It's a curtain. You see, we live underneath the curtain.
Do not arouse the wrath of the great and powerful Oz. I said come back tomorrow.
If you are really great and powerful, you keep your promises.
Do you presume to criticize the great Oz? You ungrateful creatures.
There you go. Let's go back. I've always loved this. There he is. So that's the veil that's over our eyes. What are they showing you here? What's the hidden message here? Right here, 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. And Wizard of Oz there is putting it right in front of your face. Here at the King James Bible, lest Satan should get an advantage over us, for we are not ignorant of all his devices. This is Satan. This is a representation of Satan. This is the image of the beast. This is mankind created on the sixth day of creation. So now you know that the sky above us is nothing but a curtain and separates us from the physical realm to the spiritual realm. And this is why the veil has the word evil in it, because this plane of existence here is both good and evil. And the Lord Yahweh, God Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, good Elohim and bad Elohim. Listen, I don't diss the commandments of Yahweh. Clearly, Yahweh is a man. These three here, the very last three, are the Lord is a man, Yahweh's a man, and Jehovah's a man. So all of these gods here are all war gods. And my argument is that you cannot be a God of pure love if you are a war god and you're in this plane of existence is eternal war. Gentile and Israel have had an eternal war that's going on since the very beginning. You see, when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and God said here, and the Lord Yahweh Elohim commanded him. This is also a Elohim commanded him. It's still something that is used of the supreme creator. God Elohim, Yahweh Elohim commanded him, you may eat freely from every tree of the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So we live in a plane of existence that's good and evil. It doesn't say don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good. It doesn't say do not eat from the tree of knowledge of evil. It says plainly do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Satan is the tree of knowledge. So to come back to 9:6 of Isaiah, which says that unto us a son is given, this is the star God, Jesus Christ superstar. This one here, for unto us a child is born, is Yeshua, or Yehoshua, or Joshua, or Joshua, or Josephet, or Joseph. Okay? For unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given, and the governments will be upon his shoulders. So this poses a problem now for the Christians, because the governments rest on your God, Jesus Christ's shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Remember what I just showed you before that? Jesus will be the Prince of Peace, but he says here, do not assume that I've come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but the sword. Jesus has come to bring the sword because we're here at John's vision at Patmos. Everybody likes to say that you're taking stuff out of context, folks. I don't take anything out of context. I put it right in front of you. This is why I keep the scriptures in front of me, and this is why you don't see anybody in the comment section combating against me, because they cannot substantiate any argument against what it is I'm teaching. This is the facts, folks. He held in his right hand 7 stars. The 7 stars, folks, are the 7 continents, okay? And a sharp double-edged sword. Place the S on the end of words. You got words, because that's what this is talking about. The double-edged sword came from his mouth, because his mouth is what? Has the tongue. The double-edged sword is the tongue. This is why Jesus is constantly contradicting himself. It's contradicted right here. I am not bringing peace to the earth, but the sword. But it says here that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. No, it says that he's not come to bring peace to the earth. He's come to bring the sword. But yet here he is. The governments will rest upon his shoulders, and he will be called the Prince of Peace. This is what I'm talking about when I say contradictions inside of the Bible. And this is what it's talking about when it says a sharp, double-edged sword came from his mouth. This is a two-faced God. It is both good and evil. Who is it? It's this character here. This one here that's claiming in the beginning. Jesus also says, I am the Alpha, the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and end. Here, let's make this make sense, folks. I want to make things make sense. If you can't follow, this is the base. This is coming from the base reality. This is coming from my highest self. Okay? I no longer live in my lowest self. Well, that probably wouldn't be completely true, because we're all sinners. We've all sinned against God. We all fall against God. But I'm doing the best I can to walk a righteous life today. It's important for me to walk a righteous life today. Okay? I am the Alpha, I told you, the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. This is Jesus' coming. Jesus is telling you he's the beginning. Jesus is telling you he's the beginning. It is a commencement or chief. What is it? What is the beginning? It's the time. What is the beginning? It's the beginning of the fall. Who is the beginning? Jesus right here. He held in his right hand 7 stars, the continents, in a shape, a sharp double-edged tongue came from his mouth. The sharp double-edged tongue came from his mouth. His face was like the sun shining at its brightest. If a sun is shining at its brightest, then you can't look into the sun, right? You can't see, right? So we're going to be reading Exodus 33:20, but we're going to start at 19. I will cause all my goodness to pass before you, says the Lord, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord, in your presence. Remember what I showed you earlier. The Lord is Yahweh. Okay, making these connections for you. The Lord is Yahweh, and I showed you earlier in Exodus 15:3. Damn it, right here. The Lord Yahweh, who is Jehovah, that's called in the providence, the Gentile call him Jehovah. That's their translation from a J, and all of them are men. So the Lord Yahweh will proclaim his name in your presence, and I will have mercy on whom I have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I have compassion. But Yahweh added, you cannot see my face, for no one, no man can see me and live. No one. No one. This is a command saying that no one can see God's face, Lord Yahweh, and live. Really? No one, huh? Well, if I remember correctly, the 7 elders all saw God. All the tribes of Israel saw God. Moses talked with God. Abraham talked with God. All of them talked with God. So here you have the same chapter, and this is what I'm talking about, contradictions, a double-edged sword, a double-edged tongue that speaks one thing and says another thing. Okay, now I'm showing you guys, Israel as well, that Yahweh changes his mind. Thus the Lord Yahweh would speak with Moses face to face. Hold on. He just got done saying that no one can see my face and live. No one can see me and live. Yahweh here is telling you no one can see his face and live. But yet Yahweh the Lord here speaks with Moses to his face like one speaks to a friend. Then Moses would return to camp, but his young assistant Joshua, son of Nun, would not leave the tent. So those were the PowerPoints that I wanted to point out to you this morning before I jumped into Judges chapter 4. All right? So now I showed you that Jesus contradicts himself, that he's the Prince of Peace, but he says that he's not the Prince of Peace, and Yahweh has contradicted himself. Yahweh has told you that you can't see his face and live, and then he's turned right around and he sits with Moses face to face like one who sits with a friend. Okay, you need to use discernment when you're taking these kinds of lessons on. Okay, I don't dismiss any of the laws or the commandments of Yahweh. Even though he's a two-faced God, if for whatever reason it is, for his glory alone, I guess whoever this God Yahweh is, but still remember that I've showed you plainly that Yahweh is a man of war. Okay? I'm not saying it, the scriptures are saying it. Now, some could argue that Yahweh as a man is a spiritual man, and they might not be too far off on that when you take into consideration this parable here. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45, Bible Hub. Because one is a life-giving spirit. So Yahweh could be a spirit, but why do you have the contradictions? Okay, this isn't the first contradiction, okay? There are, folks, Yahweh contradicts himself is often in the Old Testament, is Jesus contradicts himself in the New Testament. And then you got to ask why this happens. Because duality exists. This is why Jesus spoke in parables, in riddles, because you got to show yourself approved. Jumping into Judges chapter 4, again the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Now that Ehud was dead, Ehud is the king that went to Eglon and stuck the sword into his stomach and freed Israel. Israel prayed to God, prayed to the Lord, save us. So the Lord sent Ehud, and then Ehud went before King Eglon and slay him, and then freed him. And then as long as Ehud was alive, the Israelites did what was right in the sights of the Lord. But as soon as Ehud was dead, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, now that Ehud was dead. So the Lord, Yahweh, Elohim, sold them into the hands of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. So now you're in slavery. You're going to find that you're going back. You're in slavery, you're out of slavery. You're in slavery, you're out of slavery. In slavery, out of slavery. You're going back and forth into slavery. Every time you do what's right before the Lord, you're out of slavery. Every time you fall from the Lord, you're in slavery. So when is the entire unity, the entire community of Israel who are as this Bible's telling us, God's chosen children, all going to come together as one. You see, because once you come together as one, then you are no longer going to be serving the Gentile nations. This is what you got to understand. This country here has got you thinking that you're free, and you're not free. They've put you into work, and they pay you a fake fucking dollar, and you think that you're free. No, that fake dollar that they printed out is so that they can be rich. Okay, the government's the one that started printing up money from the very beginning, creating this money construct, this, oh, we're going to print ourselves up all kinds of money. We'll be rich, and we'll just trickle the money down to the poor, and we'll create this reality construct of money. You understand that this is a mankind's idea, not the spirit of truth, not the living one, the one that feeds all things, both spiritual and in the material world. Though what he does is he ordains it. You understand? He has given power to a double-edged, tongue-speaking God. That's what the gods are on this plane of existence. You got to understand that. As soon as you start figuring out that there's other gods on this plane of existence, and this is why the Creator gave the first commandment, you shall have no other gods before me. Okay? So, Sisera, the commander of his army, was based in Harosheth, Hagoyim, because he had 900 chariots fitted with iron and had cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. They cried to the Lord for help. Oh, you cried to the Lord for help. Every time we fuck up, we cry to the Lord for help. What a patient God you have, that he should answer you and send somebody to save you from the Gentile when he told you to stay away from the Gentile. You got to understand, Satan wants you to think that this is a race war between black and white. Okay? Black and white don't exist. The race war that exists is between good and evil. It's between people like me that speak out against the LGBTQ&A. It's about people like me that speak out against priests and prophets and all these people that have placed themselves above you, made themselves rich. They've done the same. The Bible tells us that even the elect shall be deceived. Who is that? Who's the elect? Those are God's chosen children. They're the elect. They were the elite. They are the Israelites. That's why the word elite is in the word Israelite. They are the elite. So even the elect of Israel shall be misguided. Why did Israel always pitch their tents to the east? Because they were sun worshipers. They were S-U-N, sun worshipers, because the sun is what gave life. The elite were misled just like everybody else is misled. Don't think that I'm wrong about this, because the tree is knowledge of good and evil. If it has to exist, that tells us that this plane of existence is duality. Now, Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lepidoth, was leading Israel at that time. She held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites went up to her to have their disputes decided. She sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them up to Mount Tabor. I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River, and give him into your hands." Barak said to her, "If you go with me, I will go. But if you do not go with me, I won't go." "Certainly I will go with you," said Deborah. "But because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours. The Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. There Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went up with him. Now Heber, the Kenite, had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Habab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree in Zananim near Kadesh. When they told Sisera that Barak, son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera summoned from Hazeroth Hagoyim to the Kishon River all his men and his 900 chariots fitted with iron. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you?" So Barak went down Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword, and Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and all Sisera's troops fell by the sword. Now not a man was left. Sisera meanwhile fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there was an alliance between Jebin, king of Hazor, and the family of Heber the Kenite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come, my lord, come right in. Don't be afraid." So he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. Let's take a look. So we take a look at the Strong's Concordance here, because I think it's the most important thing for anybody to understand, that just because it says God, just because it says Lord, doesn't mean that it's talking about the Spirit of truth. You understand that the Spirit of truth is love, pure love, okay? The Spirit of truth is pure patience. The Spirit of truth is giving you a choice. You can go your own way. You want to be gay, you want to rebel against him, that's perfectly fine to the Spirit that loves, that is a love, all right? But you won't be with the Spirit of love, okay? He's telling you that you got to stop your poor behavior, your carnal acts, man, that your abominations and your immoral sex and your lying and your cheating and your stealing and your covering of other people's wives and husbands and all that stuff. These laws were set. Yahweh gave these laws. These laws were set in place for a reason. It's important to follow the 10 Commandments. If you don't walk with the 10 Commandments on your heart, then you're living in sin. It's that simple. You have to walk. Folks, do you know how hard it is once you fall into the truth not to lie to anybody about anything anymore? To be completely honest about everything that you talk about. You don't tell anybody that you're going to be someplace and you don't show up. You don't embellish a story. You don't catch a 10-inch fish and tell them that you caught a 30-inch fish. These are all how simple it is. You don't tell your child that you're going to show up to the recital and then you don't show up to the recital. You don't tell somebody that you're going to bring them a gift on one day and then you don't bring them the gift. Those are all lies. That's all how we teach our children to lie. We also teach our children to lie with Santa Claus who comes down a chimney. So this Lord here is a controller, okay? Or a Don. A Don, as in a Don, like the Godfather. He was a Don. That's what he was. He was a controller. But wasn't the Godfather? Don't these people that are controllers, aren't they drug distributors? Aren't they alcohol makers? Aren't they distributors of alcohol? Aren't these lords? Don't they build bars? Don't these lords build big skyscrapers into the... Okay? Now you're starting to understand that lords have different meanings and that God has different meaning. Lowercase God has this different meaning. Elohim are different gods. Magistrates are different gods. Now you're starting to understand that there are different gods. This is important for you to understand duality. Okay, come, my Lord, come right in. Don't be afraid. So he entered her tent, this controller, this man who's in power, and she covered him with a blanket. "I'm thirsty," he said. "Please give me some water." She opened a skin of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him up. Stand in the doorway of the tent, he told her. If someone comes by and asks you, is anyone in there, say no. But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Wow. Holy simoleons. Look at how they're trying to push their little sex in my shit again. Fuck you, YouTube. Okay, I'm teaching a fucking lesson, you pricks. Stay the fuck off my shit and stop pushing your little fucking naked women in my shit. Fucking so sick of you fucking people. Just then, Brock came by a pursuit of Sisera. I see one more fucking thing pop up, man. You're gutted. I'll rip your fucking spiritual soul from your fucking heart. You fucking idiots. Just then, Brock came by in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet him. Come, she said, I will show you the man you're looking for. So he went in with her, and there lay Sisera with the tent peg through his temple, dead. On that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites, and the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder against Jabin, king of Canaan, until they destroyed them. Now you guys see what they do all the time. Every chance these guys are doing, they push nasty, vile shit in my channel. Women in their bathing suits, that in the shorts, women with their legs spread, yoga in their bathing suits, nothing with a string bikini between. They push that stuff all the time. And I tell them all the time, every time they do it, I'm going to cut your fucking heads from your shoulders. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want your garbage in my thread. You guys know that I teach the fucking Bible here. So why are you pushing naked women on my lessons? Keep it up. Watch what's coming for you fucks. I ain't playing any games at all. No games at all from me, man. Okay? When I'm judged, if the Spirit makes choice to save me from my sins and give me what it is I seek, I will come pour liquid metal down your spiritual throats. I will destroy your souls. I will cast you into the phantom zone. No lie. This is White Raptor News Ministries.